one of the other really, uh, let's just say, not good moments in my teaching career was a time in a rehearsal, and very early on, as probably my second or third year of teaching, and I was very hard on a section, and got frustrated, and I was finished rehearsal and sitting in my office, and there was a knock at the door, and I opened it, and it was a trumpet player, a wonderful young man, and he said, "May I speak to you for a moment?" And I said, "Sure." And he said, "You owe us an apology." And he was very calm, very even keeled. He said, "You owe us an apology." And I said, "Why do you say that?" He said, "You were really rough on us in rehearsal today." He said, "We were trying our best. We didn't do very well. I'll admit that, but that doesn't mean you had to be that hard on us." And I remember standing there thinking, I have a choice. I can defend what I did, or I can honor his feelings. And I realized at that moment that that was always the better choice, the second. And I said to him, "You're absolutely right. And not only am I going to tell you that now, I'm going to tell the entire ensemble tomorrow morning." And at the next rehearsal, I started by saying, "I owe all of you, especially the trumpets, an apology. You should never see me like that, and I should never have gotten that upset." Was I happy with how rehearsal was going? No. But I had no right to take it out on you that way. And that really was an epiphany for me. And, the generation that I grew up watching was still of that ilk where it was okay to get angry. And fortunately, those days are long behind us. And I'm not saying we can't push groups a little harder, and I'm not saying that we have to say it's great when it isn't, because I don't believe in that at all. But I realized then by apologizing to them, that made our relationship so much more solid. And I think every teacher who learns the ability to say, "I'm sorry," or "I was wrong," that's probably the moment that teacher starts to become a really wonderful teacher. And I hope that I'll always remember that. We're always going to make mistakes. It's just, we're human. And it's a question of owning up to the mistakes, especially for those that we care for so much.
Peter, when did you know that you were different? When did you know that there was something in you that may not be in everybody?
Well, that is an incredibly kind thing to say, Adam. I don't think if I am special, it's just because I'm not very good at many things. There's nothing special about me. I've been very lucky. I have been given opportunities at every juncture. I've always said to every group I've ever conducted that I am the luckiest person alive. I want for nothing. I wouldn't trade my life with anyone else. Does it mean that every moment's been easy or wonderful? No. But my life has been phenomenal, and it's mostly been the people I've been allowed to share it with, the students, the colleagues, the teachers I've had, the people I've gotten to meet. And I don't think there's anything special. I look at other people and I think, oh gosh, I wish I could be like them. A matter of fact, there was a time in college when I believe it was my sophomore year, I think, I went to my advisor and I said, "I don't think I want to be a band director anymore." And he said, "Can I ask you why?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm just not good enough." I said, "I look around at these students that I'm in class with, and they are all so much better than I am. And I don't think I have what it takes." And he said, "But you still love the idea of being a band director?" I said, "Yeah, but I want to be a good one. I owe that to those students, and I just don't think I'm going to be a very good one." And he looked at me and he said, "So you're worried?" I said, "Yeah, I'm worried about whether I'm going to be good enough, whether I have the skills to be good enough, etc." And he said, "Peter, there's always room for people who are good and work at getting better and who care." And he said, "You have to decide if that is still something that you love to do." And that was the moment. I never turned back. And I don't know whether it was just a moment of doubt, but I always felt like I had to work harder because there's so many people out there, and there still are so many people out there that are so incredible. But you're very kind to say that, and I hope to live up to even a kernel of what you said.
One of the questions that I had caught you, and I don't know if you remember, because I'm sure people catch you all the time at conferences, but I had caught you and I asked you about, I told you thank you for your books, and I asked you about your score study. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
I think there's so many different ways of cracking that nut that we all need to worry about a score study. And I think one of the things that I realized very early on was that it was the key to being really good, or one of the keys to being really good at being a band director. I mean, obviously, we all know that. But there was no one way to do it for any person. But the thing I realized early in my career was it was daunting. Frankly, it scared the heck out of me. This task of taking this massive, wonderful work of art and having to understand it, it was just so daunting. And I remember struggling. And I remember reading every book that was written about it. I remember talking to people. I remember asking questions, going to teachers and saying, how would you do this? And to me, it was literally like saying, okay, let's learn everything about medicine in the next hour or in the next day. And I thought, it's just too daunting. And I know too many people who are scared of it and put it off because of it. More importantly, they don't love doing it. And I wanted to love it, and I didn't. It scared me. It made me uncomfortable. And I thought, I have to figure out a way to make this my own. I have to find out a way to fall in love with studying a score. Because every other aspect of what we did, I fell in love with. That part I didn't. And I remember thinking, okay, there's the old adage, how do you eat an elephant? And my apologies to the vegetarians out there. And the answer is one bite at a time. And I remember thinking about that, saying, that's what I need to do. I need to make this into palatable, tiny little nibbles. And so I remember thinking I want a different way of doing this. And so the approach that I've always talked about and written about is much like putting a jigsaw puzzle together, is one of the analogies I use. And it is where I take all the pieces and I turn them over and I just lay them out and kind of look at them and just leave them all in their right position and get a nice view of what's going on. And then I start to put together the border. So I have the parameters. And I think that's how most people do a jigsaw puzzle. And they finally get that frame kind of thing on the outsides of it. And then they find a little spot to focus on. So let's say if it's a fruit bowl, is the picture. We find everything that's orange, and we kind of put together and really specialize on that orange, focus on that orange, and say, let's put everything together on that orange. Now, that orange has absolutely nothing to do with the rest of the picture, but I've got the orange together. And then we'll get that banana. So I'll find everything yellow and put it together and make that banana. And then start to look at it, and as I've then gone to each of these little spots, then start to put them into context of the whole, where they belong in that frame. And then what I'm left with is the connective material to go from the banana to the orange. What's there? And then there are those sticky wickets, those little places like, darn, what goes in that spot? What does this piece go to? That you have to really struggle with until finally then you look at the whole and you flatten it all out, you pat it all down so it's nice and smooth, and you step back and you look at it. And you make sure everything's good. If anything needs to be adjusted, you adjust it. And that to me has always been how I've approached and how I fell in love with studying scores. I literally just take the book and just kind of read everything in the front to find out about the piece, the frontispiece material, anything from the composer, anything historical I can find out. And then I just page through it like I'm literally looking at a magazine I don't really care about in the doctor's office, just to get a rough idea. And then I kind of do it again until something catches my mind. And then I'll look through it again. I just keep paging through it until I get a rough idea of the big picture. Then I'll say, okay, I'm going to take the coda, and I am going to know everything about the coda, note by note, measure by measure, chord by chord, whatever it is. And then I'll go back and let's say, okay, I'm going to do the trio and do the same thing there. And then after I've done that with each section, then I go and kind of figure out how it connects, where the transitions are, how we link one section to the other, and then go back to the little detail at the end. And so it's from the big picture to the tiny detail back to the big picture. And it's always served me well. Another analogy that I've written about and I've talked about a lot is buying a house, which for some is an analogy that rings true. You look at a bunch of houses, you find one you think you might want to look at. To us, we'd go through a bunch of scores and decide which one we want to look at. You drive up to the house, and everyone's had that moment where you sit on a car, or you sit on a bench, or you stand there in front of this house, and you look at it and go, nope, this isn't for me. But we've also had the occasion where we go, yeah, this is nice. I like this. I want to know more. Now, at that point, we don't know much about the house, but we get the big picture. Then we walk in, and the first thing anybody does is you just kind of wander through the house to get the flow and see everything. You don't really know anything about the house, but you know the flow from one room, and you've seen a little of everything. That to me is that getting through the book, knowing roughly how the piece goes, the sections, how it's broken up, all of that. Then if you decide, yeah, I still want this house, this is a house I like, then you start in one room and you look at every nail, you look at every piece of wood, you look at every seam of the carpet, you look at every crack, and you know that room better than anything else. Then you go to the next room, you do the same thing. And you do that all the way through the house. But then everybody who does this, at least for me and anyone I know, after you've done that real detailed looking at everything, you then walk through the house one more time. And you kind of just put it back into the big picture. Okay, this goes to here, then flows to here, and then it goes to here, and here's the back door. And then when you leave, you stand in front and you look at the house again. And that analogy to me is very much like the jigsaw puzzle, the way a score becomes not a task, but a joy. And I've always felt bad for people who feel that learning a score is something they don't like to do. It's a necessary evil. And for me, it's a joy. I just love it. It's like learning a new language. It's like learning a new city. I want to know everything about that city. I might only be there for 2 weeks, but I want to know everything about that. And the other thing is, I think when we study a score incredibly well, we can bring so many nuances to the performance. The wonderful expression, chance favors the, I forget the quote now. Chance favors, I can't think of the quote. I should have started until I knew I had the whole thing. The prepared mind. And that's what it is. If we're really prepared with great knowledge about the piece, then all of a sudden go, hey, oh my gosh, that chord is also at the end, was in the beginning, and it pivots to this thing, and it sparks these moments. You go, did you hear? Oh my gosh, let me tell you about this. And we can stand at the podium in front of a group of kids and say, check this out. And those moments, because we're prepared, that aren't just chance, but they're things we stumble upon. And I think that's the excitement to me of learning a score and having the joy of interpreting that piece of art.
So when Frank Battisti was on here, and he was incredible, just how much that man knows is amazing. And how sharp he is for his age is just incredible. I'm not sharp at that age, and I'm 33, so it's amazing.
I agree.
So
I get it.
We have a question from Frank. Here it is.
Peter, what are your ideas relative to the kinds of instructional materials that will be available and used after we get out of the pandemic? I mean, will it be radically different than what the kind of materials that we, printed materials that we use now? Interested to hear what you say.
Frank, I'm honored to have you ask the question. I'm humbled. You are an inspiration. You are a joy. You are a dynamo. You are an icon in our profession, and it is so wonderful to get to answer this question. I believe education is going to change profoundly when the pandemic is behind us. I think most of us do. Your question was specific to materials. I truthfully don't think the materials are going to change as much as the format, as the methodology of electronic devices and platforms will allow us to do things. I think method books, band music is still going to be delivered as a paper product. I think students will still have their beginning method book on their stand. I still think that band's going to have a folder, and we're going to open it up and have tangible pieces of music for us to perform. I think that we're not in a place yet, despite the pandemic, where we're going to do that all electronically. I think that will be in the future. I'm not sure if I'm going to live long enough to see it, but I do think that's down the pike. But I don't think it is yet. I think there are too many people who like to have that tangible paper, like to write in a method book, Jimmy, you're doing great, or circle that place easily. But I do believe that number one, the platforms, the things that we have, things like smart music, which we've had for quite some time, but now I think many more teachers are using it and are comfortable with it and see the benefits of it. Many more students, the same. Using it more and are comfortable with it. And through the pandemic, it's been a source of being able to do many things to help bolster the education of young people. So I think it's many of these things where we have electronic ways or technological ways to help augment our teaching. I think that's really the word that I would use. I think there are going to be many materials, there already are, that are available electronically that we might never see in paper form, where it may be something specific to an instrument or a group, where a publisher may decide, you know what, I don't think we're going to put that out in print, but we are going to make it available electronically. I think there's going to be a lot of that, and there already is a lot of that starting. And I think that will continue. So I think teachers post-pandemic will have the benefit of everything that we knew as far as paper materials that we used, books, sheet music, all of that. But it will be, as I said, augmented with the myriad of platforms, technological breakthroughs, and tried and true things like smart music, where we're going to be able to augment our teaching. And maybe even more importantly, students will be able to augment their ways of practicing, the materials they use. It'll be much easier for them to get a solo or a book of solos, for say. Things like flex band music that will probably become even more popular. We've seen a great spike in the number of published flex band pieces. Yeah, it's always been around, but boy, I'll tell you, the pandemic has made it quite a popular thing. I think that's going to continue because I think teachers have said, hey, this is a neat way for me to tailor music for my ensemble. And I think we're going to see that continue. So I really believe it's going to be, we're going to go from here to here with the possibilities in the future.
Do you worry about when post COVID, because a lot of programs have decreased in size since the pandemic started, either say if it's pet band or say if it's band, then they might not be doing performances or they might not be doing pet band, or things just may not be the same as they were pre-COVID. And so they might have dropped. I mean, I've talked to a lot of teachers that have said that their programs have decreased dramatically. Do you worry about post-COVID getting those students back in or growing programs, or do you think that won't be a problem?
Adam, I think it's a wonderful question, and I wish I had a crystal ball. But I'm going to give you my answer, which is I believe two things. And let me break it in half. You're absolutely right. Many programs have struggled. There are many places where they've said, we're just not going to start instrumentalists this year. Beginning band, beginning orchestra, it's just not going to happen. Where they've said, so next year they'll pick it up. Well, how do you do that? I mean, now you've got double the number of students you're going to have to service, if you will. Many places where they've said, okay, we can't rehearse as an ensemble. We're going to have 10 people in a room, if they are even in person. Many places, band has been through a screen, as you know. So I don't think it can be anything but a negative impact on what we're going to have post-COVID. So part of me says it will impact us profoundly, and I am extremely worried about that. What will ensembles be like when in many places, not everywhere, but many places, this has been such a big struggle? However, the other side of me says I have no fear. I'm really excited about the future because of how it has changed all of us. Let me explain what I mean by that. I always felt that I relished and cherished every moment I got to be in front of a band, that I got to be in front of students. I really did. I didn't think I ever took it for granted. I really thought I did savor the moment until the pandemic. And now I wish I had every moment back to relive, to re-savor, to enjoy, etc. And I think all of us, students, teachers, administrators, all feel that way. So that when the pandemic is behind us, I think music programs are going to take off with a vengeance. It is going to be a firestorm that nothing can stop, because all of us are going to say, man, we get to do it again. I mean, what I wouldn't give right now to stand in front of an ensemble and just do one downbeat. That's all I want right now, just to see their faces and play one measure, one phrase. Well, I always thought I savored it, but man, I'm telling you, the first group that I conduct after this pandemic, I'm probably going to cry through the entire rehearsal. But I've learned that this is something that can be taken away from us, and we all have. And I think that makes us savor it all the more. So I think that yes, it is going to be a momentary dip that we're all going to experience to relative degrees, different degrees, depending on the locale that we're in and what's been going on in our programs. Yes, it is going to be a struggle to do that. But I think what we're going to compensate with is this incredible desire, this incredible fever of wanting to get back to it. Every student I've talked to on Zoom meetings and things that I've done with students, they just can't wait to get back to normal. They can't wait to get back into a band room. And I think that's going to carry us for a long, long time. And these students will never forget that. And it will go on. And when they get into positions of leadership in schools, when they're principals or parents in support of a community or administrators or town administration or whatever it happens to be, legislators, they're never going to forget this. And they're going to remember how powerful band and orchestra and choir was socially, educationally, emotionally. And they're going to say nothing will ever harm this, because I lived through it not being around the way I always knew it to be. So yes, problems, but man, they're going to be taken care of, because we all want this so badly that the second we can get back at it, I'm convinced all of us will be better teachers. All of our students will be better students. All of us will be more excited. It's going to be palpable. It really is. And I have every confidence in my heart of that as a fact.
Well, Peter, where can people connect with you online? Where can they find your books? Where can they read more about you? Where can they connect?
Well, I am a dinosaur when it comes to technology. So I don't do any of the social media, believe it or not. But the books are all available through GIA Meredith Music, the Teaching Music with Passion and Teaching Music with Purpose and Teaching Music with Promise are all available through those wonderful folks. And the method books and all that are available through Alfred Music. I think probably the best way is the blog that you mentioned early on, which I want to thank you again for mentioning. My dear friends at KHS America, Jupiter Band Instruments, I serve, as you said, as Director of Education. Several years ago, probably 4 years ago, now 5 years ago, said, we want you to do a blog. And I said, I don't do blogs. I don't even really know what a blog is. No, thank you. And they said, no, we really want you to. And I said, nope, I'm not your guy. I can't do it. And they said, just try it. Well, they convinced me that a bunch of teachers really did want me to do this. And I thought, what would it be? And they said, well, we just want a little something. So once a week, we wanted to come out, just a little paragraph, maybe an inspirational quote, a little story, a technique, something to walk into a rehearsal room and try this. And I said, ooh, that would be fun. So I said, let me try it as an experiment. So I did it for about 6 months and I got addicted. So now I love it. It comes out every Wednesday. And I didn't want it lengthy. I didn't want anybody to have to sit and struggle and read it. I wanted it something that you could, over one cup of coffee between classes, you could read. And it comes out Wednesday to kind of help through the middle of the week. And I just love it. So that's the easiest thing. If you just go to Boonshaft's blog, sign up on any internet site, and it will take you right to it. You sign up. It's not connected to anything. There's no money. There's no sales stuff. It's nothing. It's just a dedicated site. You get this thing once a week during the school year, and I love it. It's been really a joy. And I have to tell you, I've gotten more email from people about that than anything I think I've ever done. And then the easiest way is through email. And if you contact me, it's easy. You can go onto any Chrome or whatever it is you use, and just type in Peter Boonshaft and the email comes up. But it's really easy. It's peter.l.boonshaft, BOONSHAFT, @gmail.com. And I try to get back to people as quickly as I possibly can. I got an email tonight just before we started this from a teacher asking me with help with something, and I said I'm going to be doing this wonderful podcast tonight, but as soon as I'm done, I'm going to be on the phone to you. So I'll try my best. Sometimes I get inundated, but I always answer. I pride myself on making sure that I help in any way I can as quickly as I can. So that's the easiest way, because I don't do any of the social media stuff. It's too intimidating.
Awesome. So you thought we were going somewhere, but now we entered the curtain call, which we'll do fairly briefly because it feels like I know Peter has a lot of things to do. So this is just kind of an informal time where I ask just kind of looser questions to our guests, not so heavy or anything, and they kind of get to find out a little bit more about you. Peter, what were your parents like?
The most wonderful parents anyone could ever ask for. My dad was an engineer, very into science, very into math, very analytical, the kindest soul you could imagine, and a very deep thinker. My mother was an artist, and she loved to do paintings and children's books and covers of magazines. And so I grew up thinking this was normal to see a cover of a magazine painted on my mom's easel that a few months later I'd see on a newsstand. And my mother was a remarkable artist. She was truly the most wonderful woman and a phenomenal artist. And I think having the two of them guide my life really was the perfect combination, because I got the analytical part, the methodological part from my dad, and I got the artistic, impassioned part from my mom. And I think it was that combination that has served me so incredibly well as a person and as a teacher and as a musician. Neither of them, they loved music, but neither of them did much with music. They both played violin a little bit early on, but never very long. But they always supported me at every juncture, every moment. It was, this is important to you, so it's important to us. And it was never a question of, well, should you do something else? And it was always, nope, music is what you love, music is what you're going to do. And the older I get, the more I'm appreciative of that, as I see many people who aren't given that gift. But yeah, they were incredible inspirations and incredible people.
Awesome. And what do you have any animals, any dogs or cats?
I have. I'm a cat lover. I've had dogs. Love them dearly. I've become a cat person in the last 30 years or so. I've always had cats, but I've had 3 of them. Janet, Joe, and Jack have been with us for quite some time. Sadly, we lost the 2 oldest. They were brother and sister. Joe and Janet we lost earlier this year, but Jack is still going strong. And but they both lived to be well past 18. Joe made it to 18, a little more than 18 and a half. So that I took comfort in the fact that they had wonderful, long, very healthy lives until the end. So Jack's an only child right now, but he is adorable and smart as a whip.
So in the curtain call, I usually like to ask about your better half. Peter, can you tell us a little bit about your wife?
Well, Mandy is the love of my life. She is the best band director I've ever known in my life. And I think that is really what just is an amazing part of her. She is extraordinarily loving and kind and puts up with me, which I'm shocked anybody would. But when I watch her as a teacher, I'm just in awe. I've always said that she has this Spengalian way about her. She's taught every level, college students through elementary, but she loves middle school. And when I watch her do a rehearsal, it's this Spengalian thing. She walks up to the podium very quietly, very calmly, and the students are drawn to her in a way that I wish I could do 1/10 of. It's like a magnet, and they just sit there and they act like little professionals. And her expectations are so high, and her what she allows the students to accomplish is so profound. But to me, it's a lesson. Every time I get to go watch her do a rehearsal or a concert, I sit there and think, boy, do I have a long way to go. So she is the joy of my life, and truly as good as they come.
So when you guys get into a car and you're driving somewhere, and you have to turn on either music or the radio or whatever, what do you guys listen to?
Well, it's funny. If my wife were to answer the question, it would be band music because she is driven to learn repertoire like no one I've ever seen, and so she always has a disc of band music going and things like that. I try to do a little of that, but I also like to listen to other things. I'm fairly eclectic. I like old music. I love Renaissance. I love Baroque. I love early music quite a lot. But we listen to all kinds of things.
Awesome. And our last question for the evening is what is your go-to sweet food that you like to eat?
Well, that would have to be cookies. I love sweet food, and it would probably be candy, but I'm not sure if candy counts as a food. Yeah, I would be really torn between cookies like shortbread, sugar cookies, oatmeal raisin cookies, those kind of things, or caramel. Anything with caramel in it, I just adore. Yeah, I do love candy and cookies, I would say. I could live on them, except you can't.